everyone. Welcome back to another episode with the Crime and Coffee Couple. My name's Allison.
And my name is Mike.
Hello, Mike.
Hey, Al. How are you, bub?
I'm doing pretty good. I haven't seen you much this week, so it's nice to be sitting next to you in the same room.
It's just
I like how you're looking at me with confusion. Like, were you in the same week that I was in?
Well, I mean, I was here. Like, I slept in the bed every single day.
Oh, there was a body in the bed next to me.
Yeah, and you could hear me snoring and everything, which probably makes you feel good. I was definitely traveling a lot this week. But nice thing about my job, I don't have to go, like, overnight anywhere, usually, for the most part. Every once in a while. But for you, like, people planning on murdering us out there, it's always like you never really know what I'm doing every day. So it's kind of nice. Like, it's kind of like we're moving and shaking. You never know. It's not the same schedule every single day. So good luck, because I'm going to be here.
Yeah, you're my knight in shining armor.
Yeah. You want to mess with me? You pick the wrong guy. Murderers, I'm telling you what.
Although I don't know if we'd hear anyone come in because we have so many noise machines and such.
Oh, that's good to share with everybody. That's good. That's like really smart. And like, you know.
I have no sense.
What she means by that is there's lots of machine guns pointing at the front door and every entry in the house. That's what it is. You really.
I had to work today. It's Saturday. My brain is fried. So good luck, guys.
Yeah, no, it's don't worry. We got plenty of guns everywhere. There's actually one right under this dog right now that she can turn into a gun.
But if you are new to the podcast, we are a husband and wife duo. I tell the story. Mike listens. He sits and he looks pretty.
Oh, I don't do a very good job of that. But you can find us on like YouTube, or if you're just listening now, you can do that. Definitely tell your friends and family about us. We'd really appreciate it. We're growing a little bit here. Got some new listeners, so that's actually a good idea to kind of reset.
And we're going to be redoing our set soon. If you watch us on YouTube, we've been ordering a few things. And oddly enough, the change came from Mike.
Yeah.
And Mike isn't necessarily a doer of change when it comes to the house. God forbid I mention a house project. We're looking at years out, if I say anything.
Yeah, so we live in Florida, and it's really nice to go outside and just kind of enjoy the weather every once in a while. Like, for instance, today it's like March 1st. We're recording this, and it's like 75 outside probably. It's like
70-ish,
It's
yeah.
Absolutely beautiful. And Allison might be like, hey, Mike, want to go outside and just like, sit and enjoy? And I'm like, in my head, like, yeah, of course, it sounds awesome. But I know as soon as we go out there, it's like, we got to do something about this, or like you got to power wash the wall or whatever.
Yeah,
it's never just
there's like dark staining down our wall. And why wouldn't my husband look over and be like, oh, you know what? That actually looks really crappy. I should just run out to the garage real quick and just grab the pressure washer. No, it's going to have to be something that I talk about for about 7 weeks before we get it done.
Yeah, because if it's against the law to be somebody that's generally just happy with life, then go ahead and put me in jail.
Happy with life?
Put the cuffs on me because I'm guilty as charged.
Well, I'm sorry. When you own a house, there are things that need to be done. Like the bed that's sitting in our garage that we got our daughter a new bed, probably before her birthday. So we're looking at about maybe 5 months ago. Mike, we need to either just get what is it? Not Goodwill. We use the other one.
Salvation Army.
Just get a Salvation Army pickup. I don't even need money for it. Just get it out of here.
I would like to get some money for it.
Mother effing bed is still sitting there.
We also had a TV or a computer monitor over here that was like blocking my view of the wave files, like the sound. And like it was there for weeks because I was trying to sell it on Facebook Marketplace. I ended up selling it for a whole like $25.
Yeah, and I'm just not into that. Like I don't do yard sales, garage sales. I have no patience. I just want it the hell out of here.
Like one of our best friends, you know who you are if you're listening, and she listens to us, and she likes to go, get her garage sale on and sell all the things in her house. And we're like, what'd you make today? Like $7.50? Like, is that worth like hours and hours of your own life? But like clearly she gets something else out of it. Like, it makes you clean up and gets all those things.
I don't want to talk to people out in front of my house and I don't want to take the time to do it. Just get it out here. Like my neighbor, he's such a sweet, our neighbor, because you live with me too.
I do live here, yeah.
So our neighbor, he's just a purely sweet person. And he just happened to catch me outside. I was chucking these rocks glasses into our garbage can in the garage, and they were nice, but I don't give a hoot about these 4 glasses because we don't drink anymore. So Mike has no need for his bourbon or whatever the hell you used to drink. And so I just see him across the street. I'm like, hey, you drink bourbon. Do you need these glasses? He's like, no, but I'll put them in with my pile for blah, blah, blah charity. And I'm like, oh, God, I'm a terrible person.
We usually just toss it in the garbage. So sorry.
No, a lot of the times we do Goodwill or Salvation Army, whatever.
Mainly because they can pick it up for free. That's the best part.
Oh, and I discovered Sheen yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
I'm late to every party.
Yeah, it's 2025 and Allison's discovered Sheen. Now describe it for those that are also like you that don't know about it.
Well, it's not that I didn't know about Sheen. I knew it existed.
You're old, like you're 45. So like I think there's a lot of people similar to our age and up that are listening. So explain it.
So it's just super, super discount clothing. So we're going to be taking a cruise for our anniversary. So I was like, oh, maybe I could look for some tank tops or something. My wardrobe is a joke because I'm either in scrubs, workout clothes, or just casual stuff. So I'm like, maybe I can get a few things. I'm like, oh my gosh, these things are like $2-3. I imagine as soon as it gets wet, it's just going to dissolve. I'm not sure. But I think I had like 23 things in my cart and my total was like $74.
Yeah, and Shein is SHEIN.
And people are probably like, you idiots. We've been going on to Shein for years.
Right. Anybody under our age is basically probably been done it a million times. But
I've purchased our daughter things on Shein. I've just never looked for myself.
yeah, so generally they say just like expect like 25% of it's going to be garbage food.
Yeah. So we'll
clothing.
see.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Right. So yeah, things are good. If you love what we do, you can always subscribe to Patreon or become an Apple subscriber. You get access to an extra episode every week, depending on your level of subscription. There's over 100 bonus episodes out there. So if you really love what we do and want 100 episodes that nobody else can get, just go ahead and subscribe.
Absolutely. So are you ready to get into this?
Real quick, our buddies Daniel and Melissa, they do the Till Death Do Us Part podcast. They do a good job over there, but they've also started a new podcast because Melissa's out of her mind and apparently doesn't have enough work to do with the Till Death Do Us Part, and she started Drunk in Love with her husband. So
yes, and I listened to it, and they're just a great combo together. So I would suggest it's stories about, love and couples and relationships throughout the decades or whatever, but I'm probably totally botching the description. So you should probably just go over and listen to them, and they're just a good combination.
Yeah, and I was talking to Allison real quick. We were walking today, and I just get intimidated by all the other like dudes that are in like crime, like the Wife of Crime podcast, Russ over there. And then we got Till Death Do Us Part, Daniel. Like they are both hilarious and awesome. Like I always feel like I'm not as funny or engaging as them. So like those guys do a great job. And I'm not looking for compliments. Like I know I'm all right.
Well, I think you're very funny.
Thank you for saying. She has to say that contractually.
No, I 100% do not.
Both of those guys do a great job, and their wives, of course. Their wives are the best. So yeah.
So there's a green light on my computer, my MacBook, and then there's like a green FaceTime symbol up at the top. I don't know what that's all about. If anyone's watching me right now on my computer, they're going to be so bored out of their wits.
You might be on a FaceTime call?
No, I don't know why it's there. It's not on a FaceTime call. This has been happening for like a week. I never noticed this green light, but somebody might be watching me right now. I'm sorry if you are, because my life is pretty boring.
Wait, let's stop. Let's just see what this is. And I had to edit real quick and say, why don't you turn off whatever is on? And Allison had her camera on.
I don't do that. I just keep going with what the problems are.
That's my girl.
Until my husband can solve the problems for me.
You got this, sweetheart. Go ahead.
Okay, so you ready to get into this?
I am. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So this is a sad case, and it does involve a child. And this is the murder of Zander Lyda. So this is a case suggestion from Mia, so thank you so much, Mia. It was the night of Thursday, January 5th, 2023, and April Lyda's life changed forever, and she has since been left to grapple with a kind of grief that no parent should ever have to face. At the time of this case, April was a single mom. She was living in Tulsa, Oklahoma, raising her 3 children, ages 3, 9, and 12. So April headed upstairs to bed in the apartment that she shared with her children. She said goodnight to her 9-year-old son, Xander, and her 12-year-old daughter. And that night, her 3-year-old son wasn't there because he was staying the night at his dad's house. So it was only herself, her daughter, Xander, and their 2 cats that were inside their apartment as she's heading up and saying goodnight. So fast forward to just before midnight, and April woke up to the sounds of what she would later describe as the worst scream ever. So she jumped out of bed and she rushed downstairs to where the sounds were coming from. And she initially thought that her son was maybe having a nightmare, maybe a night terror. She wasn't sure because, again, when you're jolted out of sleep, it takes you a moment to get your bearings as to what's going on. So Xander wanted to sleep downstairs that night, and April agreed since he didn't have school the next day. So as April ran to Xander's side, she began to move him on the couch in an attempt to wake him up from, like I said, what she believed at the time was to be a nightmare. And she was stunned and confused when she noticed blood. And when April tried to understand what was going on, what was happening, Xander managed to say, "She stabbed me." And she couldn't wrap her head around what he was talking about, who he was talking about. And by this time, Xander is now fading in and out of consciousness. So April immediately dialed 911, and she was instructed by the dispatcher to start chest compressions. So, in the midst of all of this chaos and panic, April was unable to find her daughter. So, she was just trying to tend to her son, do chest compressions as she was being told to, as she's meanwhile yelling out her daughter's name, fearing that someone came into the house while she had been asleep upstairs. So she considered that her daughter had fled from the home out of fear, that maybe while Xander was being attacked, her daughter ran from the house. So while April waited for help to arrive, she lifted Xander's shirt, and here's when she noticed puncture wounds to his chest. So by the time authorities who had their body cameras running as they entered the home, they rushed into this apartment. It was in the Tulsa St. Thomas Square neighborhood, and they were met with a frantic 12-year-old little girl who came rushing down the stairs. So as they're entering the home, this child is rushing down the stairs kind of in their direction. She's hysterically crying, and she's repeatedly screaming, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." The girl was taken outside and placed eventually in handcuffs after she confessed to being the one who stabbed her 9-year-old brother, Zander Lyda. She stabbed him 3 times in the chest.
Crazy.
Aylan, I'm so sorry. I'm so
Come here.
sorry.
Come here.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Stop. We're just gonna put handcuffs on just for now.
I'm sorry. Just pull up my pants.
Where's the
I'm
knife?
sorry, Dad. I'm sorry. I don't know what chest. I'm so sorry, Mom. I'm sorry. Please. I'm so sorry. Julie, you better pray to God. I am praying, Mom. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
How old are you?
I'm 12 years old.
Where's the knife?
I was upstairs in my room and I threw it out the window and it's behind the apartment right here.
You threw it where?
I threw it out my window upstairs.
Right
not
up here?
not right there. It's the room. It's the other room. It's right behind the apartment. This apartment right here.
So where would the knife be? On that side?
Right behind. Yeah. I'm so sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. This is something demonic.
Hey,
So sorry.
what's your mom's name?
What?
What's your mom's name?
I gotta go with him. I'm so sorry. I don't know what the happened. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
Come over here so we're out of the paramedics' way.
I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry.
Hey, what's your name? Seat for me. Sit crisscross on the grass, okay? Just sit there for a second. You don't have the knife on you, right?
No, I swear I don't. I'm
Sorry.
sorry. I don't. I don't.
So because the girl is a minor, her name has not been released to the public. So body cam footage depicted the girl being led from the house while April could be heard screaming and sobbing inside the house. She was unable to comprehend why her daughter had done what she did. So her daughter is out front in the yard, just kind of slightly outside the front door, and April came to the doorway, I should say, and she was yelling out to her daughter, "There's stab wounds in the chest. You better pray to God he effing lives."
Oh, so she knows right now, instantly, that because she heard her daughter saying, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry."
Right. And what all went down in the time that she dialed 911 until authorities arrived, I'm not sure what the interaction was with her daughter and what she said to her mom.
And Xander clearly saying she stabbed, or, I can't believe she did that to me.
Yes,
So
and-
she is always like a red flag. It's like, okay, like usually it's a man or something, like if it's an intruder of some sort.
Yeah, you would expect it to be a man.
Yeah.
So he didn't necessarily name his sister. He
Right.
just said, "She stabbed me," and then he started fading in and out of consciousness. And then before you know it, now authorities are at the scene. They're tending to Xander. Her daughter's being led outside. Everything is happening so quickly. And like I said, just minutes before, April was, jolted out of a sleep.
Right.
So this is chaos and devastation and just horrific heartbreak all happening in a matter of minutes.
You've got your 12-year-old daughter out front of your house, just admitting basically to stabbing your 9-year-old son who's bleeding out in the basement. And it's
just in the
madhouse.
family room of the house on the
Okay.
first level.
Okay.
There was no basement that I was aware of. They weren't in the basement. So now standing in the front yard, the young girl told the officer that after she stabbed her brother, she ran up to her bedroom and threw the knife out the window, because that's what officers were asking. Where's the knife? So she continued to apologize over and over as she said she had no idea what happened and that it was some demonic crap, but she used the S word. I try not to swear too much on this podcast. So she walked the officer around the backside of the apartment building and basically gestured, "You can find it over there." Because it was evidence, he didn't touch it at that point in time, but she was able to show him where the knife would be found. So 9-year-old Zander Lyda was described as one of the sweetest boys. He had a huge smile. He loved to ride his bike. Typical things. He liked to play Fortnite. He would hang out with his best friends. He loved spending time with his mom and even just doing the mundane tasks of running errands together. As long as he was with his mom, he was happy. Xander loved pizza, tacos, and ice cream, and he was said to be an incredible kid who really wanted nothing more than to make those around him proud. So he just did everything he could to make people feel at ease and happy and just proud of him.
Sounds like a great kid.
Right. So inside the home, April watched in horror as paramedics were now tending to her 9-year-old son.
Could you imagine that? Like the light of your life, little boy or girl or whatever, just like, or if you have a niece or nephew, just like laying there bleeding out, like surrounded by paramedics, and like you're just hoping they can like somehow live.
No, I can't even imagine it. And you're thinking about a typical evening when you're just at home. It's just you, your daughter, your son, your 2 cats, you're hanging out. April's getting tired. She says goodnight. I'm going to go up to bed. Xander didn't have school the next day, so he said, "Mom, do you mind if I sleep down here on the couch?" She said, "Fine, no problem." You go upstairs thinking you're going to wake up in the morning and it's going to be another normal day, and that just wasn't the case. Her entire world was flipped upside down in the time that she went to bed until, this all happened. And truly, my heart breaks for her because I can't even imagine what this must have been like. So these paramedics are in the family room desperately trying to save this sweet 9-year-old boy's life. And meanwhile, her daughter, her 12-year-old, is out front with handcuffs on and her arms are behind her back. I mean, it had to have been beyond surreal. So after Xander was rushed to the hospital, he was immediately taken into surgery. And while April's daughter was safe in the custody of the authorities, April followed the paramedics so that she could be at the hospital while her son was being tended to. So meanwhile, the girl continued to sit and speak with officers. Again, at this point in time, she's still in the grass right outside the front door. And she was asked if she had any cuts on her body. She told the officer that she did. And when her hoodie was removed, the officer was able to see that the majority of the cuts that were on her arms, they looked old. And one wound did appear to be fresher. It wasn't bleeding. It's not like she required medical attention for this wound. So basically, he kind of draped the hoodie back over her body so that she was comfortable. So after she was transferred in the patrol car, she was still sitting there, and she continued to speak with an officer that was sitting in the car with her. And she was just telling this officer over and over that she was going to jail. And as they sat inside the parked patrol car, she asked the officer if she would be going to jail. And he told her it was just too soon to know what was going to happen.
Well, let's see. You just stabbed your brother. It's a good chance, but I don't want to be the one to tell you the bad news in case you flip out and try to stab me.
So she's sitting in the car and she said, "I ruined my life. I ruined my whole future. It's all my fault." So the officer tried to comfort her as he told her that nothing was ruined and it was nobody's fault. Like you said, he's just trying to keep the situation calm.
He's like, "Can you stop like talking to me? I just want to leave here. Can't wait to clock out."
So as she remained in the back of the patrol car, the girl told him a story about a time when her math teacher took medical leave to undergo cancer treatment. And when he came back, it was only just the day before. She said it just made her happy. It made her like math that much more. But it kind of just gives you the idea that we're dealing with a 12-year-old here.
Yeah, clearly this was some kind of psychotic episode. Like, I'm sure you're going to talk all about it. It's pretty sad.
So she continued to cry and she started repeating softly that she was so sorry. She was basically saying it to herself.
I mean, a big thing here is like taking ownership of it. You know, a lot of kids have a hard time with that. They always blame other things, but she's taking it right on the chin here. So, but I mean, yeah, you got to face the charges.
Right. So she's, muttering to herself, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And she began to pray. And at one point she whispered, "I'm so sorry. God, please help me. What the F? Please effing please." So she told the officer that, while her mom was at work, it was oftentimes that she was home and she was kind of watching over her 9-year-old brother. This is Xander. She explained that she also had a younger brother. He had just turned 3 in October, but he spent every weekend at his dad's house. So at one point, she said that she wanted to wake up from this nightmare that she was in, and she continued to insist that she was going to jail since what she did was what she said super illegal.
Yeah.
So in reference to the handcuffs around her wrists, she asked the officer, "Are the handcuffs necessary? I'm a good child." So the officer explained that the handcuffs were necessary due to the departmental procedures because of the nature of what she did. So when she was eventually transferred to the police department, the handcuffs were taken off and she was allowed to go and use the restroom. So then April came to the police station to talk to the officers, give a statement as to what happened. So when she first sat down with the officers, she was just discussing the horrific events of the night. She was told by the officer that Xander was breathing and the medical team was doing everything that they could. So he explained that he had just talked to the doctor, and what he told April at that point in time was, "It's all good things right now." So with this news, you could see that April immediately breathed a sigh of relief and she sobbed, "I don't want to lose both of my kids tonight." However, tragically, sometime after this conversation, Xander took a turn for the worse and he succumbed to his injuries at 2:30 in the morning.
Oh man, that really sucks hearing that like things are going in a good direction and you're like, okay, these guys know what they're doing, and then just gone.
So before she was made aware of the devastating news, April conveyed that she could not wrap her head around why her daughter had done what she'd done to her little brother. She elaborated that she had never been aggressive. Yeah, they're siblings, they argue, just like typical siblings do, but she said never once had they even gotten into a slight physical altercation. So it's not like they would wrestle around and hit each other out of anger.
But like even a lot of siblings do, just because they're kids.
Right.
Like that's interesting. So like these would be like some of the last kids you would ever think this would happen to.
Right. Totally unprompted is what she's getting to. So despite the fact that the two had always been close, April had noticed that toward the very end of Xander's life, they were starting to argue and bicker more than usual. So April indicated that her daughter was always a happy, energetic child who loved school, and other than ADHD, she had never been diagnosed with any kind of mental disorder. She was always happy, she was well behaved. She'd never even had any sort of angry outbursts where she would lash out at her mom in anger, yell, nothing, nothing like that. So according to April, her kids were not allowed to watch scary movies. They weren't allowed to swear. I will tell you, while watching the body cam footage, the 12-year-old was swearing. Obviously, this is an extreme situation, but according to April, it's not like they walked around the house cursing.
Right. I mean, kids will pick up all that stuff at school. I never swore when I was with my parents, but when I was with my friends, it'd be like all no holds barred.
Right. Her daughter was swearing in front of April during the body cam footage. So her daughter had never, ever displayed any hint that she was capable of any sort of violent act, let alone stabbing her 9-year-old brother unprompted to death. So she admitted that her 12-year-old was beginning to rebel, but, at the time she just believed it was her trending towards teenage years and that it was just normal. So yet after April went to bed that night, Xander and his sister were just sitting on the couch doing something completely normal. They were watching their favorite show. This was Henry Danger. So suddenly, for whatever reason, the 12-year-old went into the kitchen. She grabbed a 5-inch steak knife and she walked back to the couch where Xander was sitting, watching his show, completely unaware that he was in danger, that his life was close to ending at this point in time. And suddenly she plunged the knife into her brother's chest 3 times for no apparent reason whatsoever.
I can't wait to hear like what was going through her head when this all happened. I'm sure you're going to cover that.
I will tell you, I'm going to give you as much detail as I possibly have, but because this is a case that if it ever does go to trial, we don't know, but because it involves a minor, there's a lot of information that isn't necessarily there, but I did get as much as I possibly could.
And I know you probably know her name.
I don't know her
name.
name.
Oh, really? That's
no.
not okay. Well, then the other thing I want to mention, you ever like pick up a chef knife or something and it's like I sharpen the chef knife or something and I'm like, this is like capable of killing. Obviously, we're a crime couple here and we tell crime stories every week, but it's like, you might be walking by me and it's like, man, there's opportunities where people can just slice people. Like, and like something like this, where this is just a standard 12-year-old, 9-year-old brother and sister watching Henry Danger and just goes and stabs him. And like anybody's capable of that at any time. It's almost kind of crazy that doesn't happen more or something? I don't know.
It's morbid to think about, but I mean, everybody's got knives in their kitchen. We're all cooking. We're cutting through meat and things like that. Obviously, those are all potentially deadly weapons.
Yeah.
We just hope that they're in a household where no one's going to, kill anyone.
There's a morality that, prevents you from that.
Right. So there were no other warning signs of the violence to come. But after Xander's death, April learned that 2 weeks earlier, her daughter actually had said something to someone. She had confided in friends. I don't know how many, but she said that she had an urge to stab her brother.
Wow.
And this was something that April had never been made aware of until after the fact. Possibly because her daughter's friends were too afraid to speak up. Maybe they thought she was only joking.
Yeah, you don't take that seriously. It's like, oh, yeah, me too.
Right.
Like whatever.
So either way, she wasn't told the information until after her son had already passed away. So again, like I had said before, April had noticed that her daughter was recently spending more and more time in her room. We have teenagers, and oftentimes they do want to spend time in the room.
As soon as they come home from school, they each march to their rooms and close the door.
Right. And I'm always like, our daughter is way more likely. We were just sitting on the couch having smoothies and watching The Office together.
Our son lives in his underwear in his dark room, like on his bed, basically.
And today at baseball, he sprained his ankle, and he is going to milk the hell out of the sprained ankle and basically probably say, I have to eat dinner in my bed.
Yeah. Oh, he's going to. We're going to let him because he's going to have a swollen
Not
ankle.
me. That kid's going to march his ass out to that kitchen table. So again, April saw this as something normal, that her daughter was just becoming a teenager soon, and she just wanted her own space like many teenagers want. So April later indicated that her children were always very well behaved, and what happened on that horrific night had to have been a result, and this is all April's opinion, of a manic episode of some kind. So she was discussing the fact that her daughter was taking medication for ADHD. April indicated that her daughter's ADHD wasn't bad, but she did struggle to focus in school, so she was prescribed a low daily dose of a medication called Intuniv. And she had been taking this for 5 years since she was 7 years old. She said that her daughter started having visions after a period of time that she was on this medication. Not only visions, but also hallucinations. She told her mom that she was starting to see ghosts. And she elaborated that she saw a little girl who sat next to her in her bedroom late at night. Her face was cut up and bleeding. I mean, can you imagine how scary that would be for a child, for anybody?
Yeah.
My gosh, if I woke up and I saw a vision of a child sitting on my bed with her face cut up, that's horrible.
Yeah, and it's really sad because it's like there's nothing she can do about it, and I'm glad she shared it,
Yeah.
right? You have to. Like, if you're having those kind of visions, definitely share them with somebody, because it's not what should be happening in your brain, and there's some kind of chemicals that are off, and hopefully there can be, it can be fixed somehow or adjusted or whatever, and it's got to be such a scary feeling to like just know that like this isn't happening, but my brain's seeing it or
Right.
whatever.
It's like
it
you
is.
can't trust your own mind.
Right.
So not only was this, little girl sitting there with her face cut up and bleeding, the ghost would tell the little girl that she was going to die. I mean, terrifying. She also saw a woman in the mirror who wore a red coat and had no face. So there was also a morning when April's daughter ran from her room because she thought that there were thousands of ants crawling all over her body, despite the fact that there were no ants at all. According to April, because of these side effects with the medication, they eventually made the decision to take her daughter off of Intuniv. She took her to the doctor, explained the things that were happening, and the decision was to stop the medication. And with this, she was transitioned to homeschooling. So after coming off the medication, lo and behold, the vision stopped. And she eventually went back into the public school system. And once she did, time had gone by, so she asked to start taking the medication again. So April took her daughter back to the doctor, and he prescribed the medication a second time. And it wasn't long before her daughter's mood started to become a little bit more angry and irritable. She did start around this time spending more time isolated in her bedroom. So this was around the same time, which I said was about 2 weeks before Xander lost his life, that her daughter started to speak with her friends about having these desires to stab her brother. And at this point, she started harming herself as well.
Oh, poor thing.
So April indicated that because her daughter wore long sleeve shirts, she was unaware of the fact. Because you have to think about, this is a girl that's 12 years old. It's not like April is bathing her daughter. and she's wearing long sleeve shirts. So her mom has no idea that this is even happening.
I could totally see that in our own house. Like,
Right.
I wouldn't know.
She didn't know that her daughter was harming herself. So when someone at school noticed, they did contact April. So that is another good thing, that people reached out to her saying, hey, did you know that this is happening? So with this information, April did confront her daughter, and she confided that it made her feel better about herself to do this. So obviously this little girl was suffering inside.
Yeah.
So weeks later, she stopped taking the medication for ADHD, but April went on to read that the side effects can last weeks to months. So at the time of Xander's death, the daughter had been stopped again for the second time from taking this medication.
And how long?
So it doesn't sound like very long at all. So the first time around, she was taking it for an undetermined amount of time because she started at age 7. At some point in time, she started seeing these visions of the little girl, the lady in the mirror with the red and no face, the ants crawling on her, stopped it. She was fine, started it again. That's when she started to get a little bit more aggressive, etc.
I looked up side effects of intuitive,
I believe.
Yeah, intuitive. And it said like dermatitis, cognitive impairment, hallucinations, accidental falls, chest pain, syncope, depression. So
Syncope, which is dizziness.
yeah.
So, I mean, just like any medication, that's something you have to talk to your doctor about, because every medication has side effects. You look at the risks, versus the benefits.
Right.
So when April spoke out for the first time in an interview with News Nation, she indicated that it was her daughter's medication that had caused her to act out in violence. However, a woman named Dr. Kelly Posner, she's a professor of psychiatry at Columbia University, she discussed the importance of separating fact from fiction. She agreed that the correct thing to do was, yes, first consider the medical issues or medications. And in this case, we know her daughter was taking medication for ADHD, and then try to come to an idea of what could have caused this terrible outcome. However, according to Dr. Posner, medications don't cause these terrible outcomes, and it's the underlying medical conditions that these medications are treating that are responsible for many things. She feels it's dangerous to blame the medications because when people start believing that these medications are dangerous, they may take themselves off rather than talking to their doctors first. And these medications, depending on what they're treating, they could be potentially life-saving. So really what it comes down to is these are conversations to be having with your doctor. Anytime you're changing prescribed medications, obviously the medications were prescribed for a reason, that if you're going to think about stopping taking them, talk to your doctor first.
Absolutely, sure. It's not to say don't blame the medications, because if that's what she's saying, she's crazy. But yeah, you can you have to weigh the pros and the cons. And if you see some hallucinations, then get off of it. But if you have a great, it improves your life, then go ahead, stay on it.
I think what the doctor was saying was there's not necessarily proof that this intuitive can cause a person to lash out in such a sudden, unprompted, violent act that it would be as severe as this case.
Yeah, but it just happened, so it's a possibility. So thanks. Like if I'm the mom, I'd be kind of pissed off.
Was there an undiagnosed medical condition that was happening?
Perhaps.
So the medication...
We're not saying that it was definitely the drug, but I'd be mad. If I was April, I'd be like, oh, I don't know.
Right, and by no means are we doctors, but the medication in question, like we said, is Intuitive. It's a non-stimulant treatment for ADHD, and studies have proven this to be both safe and effective. According to Dr. Posner, those with a history of self-harm or aggression may also be experiencing some sort of mood disorder. That's her point. There was likely something else going on under the surface that had yet to be diagnosed.
Right.
Dr. Posner believes that it's clear that April's daughter was undiagnosed and likely suffering. And like many, she was suffering in silence, and this resulted in her not getting the care that she desperately needed. Like 2 weeks earlier when she was telling her friends, I have the urge to stab my brother. That is not a healthy, typical thought. Obviously, something was going on. So Dr. Darcy Sterling, she's a licensed clinical social worker. She agrees that pieces of the puzzle are definitely missing in this case. and the medication was likely not the only factor at play,
Right.
as she had never heard of a situation where a child inadvertently did something like this with zero warning signs. Now, I'm saying zero warning signs. That's to April's knowledge, because she didn't know that her daughter was making statements about the desire to stab her brother.
Right.
So technically that was a warning sign, but it was missed because no one said anything. So it's her opinion that the medication alone would not make someone homicidal. Once again, if you're having concerns, please go talk to your medical professional. So on the other hand, New York emergency medicine expert, this is Dr. Stuart Fisher, he indicated that there is evidence that ADHD medication can contribute to behavioral changes in children, and in extreme cases, it can turn dangerous or pathological. So you have three different medical, professionals. Two are saying one thing, one's saying the other. So April believes that it was her daughter's case that was one of these extreme cases.
Is that possible? Sure. And is it possible that there are underlying causes? Yes.
Right. So in response to the old cuts that were on her daughter's arms, of course, when the police officer was checking her, April indicated that her daughter had been immediately taken off her ADHD medication at the advice of her doctor when she initially began to cut herself. And she clarified that the cuts were from 2 months before. She insisted that her daughter was not a cutter, as the fresh cuts on her arm were inflicted the night that she attacked her brother. However, April had mentioned that her daughter did engage in self-harm the night before the attack, something that she had only done once before. So according to April, Xander had been awake at the time of his attack, since he didn't have school the next morning. And like I said, that's why she had given him permission to sleep downstairs on the couch. And the reason that he didn't have school the next morning was because he was in the process of transitioning to homeschooling. It was through a program within Oklahoma. And days before his death, they met with his teacher. They were just waiting for books to arrive, and then he was going to start. So April feels tremendous guilt that she wasn't there to protect her son. She was upstairs sleeping, because she always promised her children that she would never let anything like this happen to them. It was her goal that their home be a safe space for them to come to, that they had nothing to fear, and for that she feels like she failed both her son and her daughter.
How would you ever know that somebody was capable of, a sibling was capable of stabbing their own flesh and blood? You have no idea until it happens.
And it's unfortunate, we can't anticipate things that are going to happen always. So Xander's death is not the only case of violence that this family has dealt with.
I was also wondering if there's like a history of, some just mental things in the family. I don't know if they knew that or not.
So in 2017, when Xander was 4 years old and his sister was 6, Xander's father, this is Levi Lyda, he was charged with felony animal abuse in Missouri for allegedly torturing his daughter's kitten to death.
There you go.
Well, this is not her father, but he was involved in her life.
Really?
Yes.
That is interesting. Okay.
I'll tell you more about her father, though. So this is Xander's father. So at the time of this incident, he and April were divorced, but he was there at the house. He was by himself. So April comes home and she notices drops of blood inside. And of course, she asked her ex-husband what the hell happened. And Levi told her, "I got rid of the cat." She eventually found the kitten's lifeless body in the backyard. So Levi told investigators that he was extremely intoxicated. He drank a 6-pack of beer and then a half bottle of vodka. And he said he does not recall killing the kitten, but he elaborated that after the family cat gave birth to the kitten, caring for it had become a burden to the family. So he said, I guess that's why I did what I did.
Yeah, just kill it. What else are you going to do?
This helpless family pet.
Crazy.
So he eventually agreed to a plea deal that traded jail time for substance abuse treatment. And at some point, he was cited for beating a fellow inmate so severely that this man sustained moderate brain injury. Levi is not the biological father to April's 12-year-old daughter, but April told investigators that he did treat her like she was his own.
Yeah, I'm more worried about the genetics of it all.
Right, but somebody that you're in the presence of often.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not a good thing to be around that guy.
Right. So oftentimes Xander's dad was not around the kids because he was dealing with substance abuse issues. And she said that he would only be allowed to see the kids when he was sober. So April said that she had not realized that Xander's father was an alcoholic not until 8 months after they got married, and they lived apart during a lot of their marriage once she realized that he was dealing with, alcohol use disorder until they ultimately divorced. So April gave birth to her daughter in 2010, and records show that the girl's father is a convicted felon who is currently behind bars. He's been in and out of the prison system since January of 2014. In April of 2023, this is 3 months after her daughter killed Xander. This is, the little girl's father. He was involved in a police chase. So it was just a routine traffic stop. Apparently, he had a defective taillight. So the officer flipped on his lights to get him to pull over. And he didn't. He wouldn't pull over. So he basically crashed his car into a guardrail and began running. So once he was tracked down by police officers, they found crystal meth in a pill bottle. He had a loaded syringe and a baggie with a white powdery substance inside.
And that's sad. That's clearly some mental health issues going on there. Like, there's definitely drug use, and then there's like trying to get away from the things in your head,
Right.
That's tough.
Well, a lot of the time those two things go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So the man also has ties to the white supremacist gang. This is the Universal Aryan Brotherhood.
Awesome.
Yikes. So according to April, he has not been involved in raising their daughter and owes her tens of thousands of dollars in child support. She allowed her daughter to visit him in prison a couple of times when she was very young and didn't understand the concept of what prison even was at the time she was going to see her father.
Man, this is one of those scenarios where, like, if these kids turn out to be, would have turned out to be in an all right situation, it would have been a miracle.
Right.
Like, they have a lot of the deck stacked against them.
So April admits that she too had once been a hardcore drug addict, but she said that as soon as she discovered that she was pregnant with her daughter, her firstborn, she stopped. So the 12-year-old girl was said to have grown up surrounded by felons, drug addicts, and white supremacists.
Jeez.
However, April remains adamant that the family's background is not to blame. She tried to shield her children as much as she possibly could from these troubled men, and she fully believes it is the medication for ADHD that is to blame.
I mean, that's a victim thing, to kind of blame something else. And I don't blame her.
Protect yourself.
Yeah, exactly. If whatever she's got to do to protect herself mentally, that's fine. I'm glad I haven't had to go through something like that. But at the same time, you got to look at genetics. Like I always tell our kids, like, oh, the reason that you do this is because of me, or the reason you do that's because of mom. Like I think genetics play a huge deal in a lot of things. I'm not a doctor by any stretch, but it's just like always something you can kind of tie it back to,
Yeah, I know. But at the same time, if you have a family member that does have a mental health disorder, obviously you want to go out and try to live your best life too.
Yeah, you're not like screwed instantly, but it's like you got to watch out for it.
Right.
Like if you had alcoholism in your family, it's like it's probably not a great idea to pick up a bottle of booze,
Right.
Like you're susceptible to it.
Of course. So April indicates, though, that she does plan on suing the drug company as well as the doctor that prescribed the medication to her daughter. So April's daughter was ultimately transferred to the Family Center for Juvenile Justice. This is a juvenile treatment facility where she would undergo a mental evaluation and a subsequent treatment plan. So that's why I'm saying there's a lot of information we do not have available. For instance, what did the mental health experts diagnose her with?
I would love to know what she said, like what was going through her head when she stabbed her brother.
Well, that's the problem, though. April lived under the same roof with her children, and she saw nothing other than seeing that maybe her daughter was a little moodier and maybe in her room a little bit more. April literally said there was no warning signs whatsoever.
No, I'm not asking about warning signs. I'm asking about the little girl. What was going through your head when you decided go walk to the kitchen, grab a knife, stab your brother?
I think it was this fascination. Like she told her friends, she had this urge to stab her brother.
And just at that time, it came to a head, and she's like, I'm going to do it.
And honestly, it sounds like she didn't understand the finality of what she was doing.
Even though she's 12.
At 12 years old.
You got to understand that.
Like I said, we are not mental health experts. We are not doctors. We're just trying to wrap our heads around what may have happened.
Yeah, that's more like coping. I think if she understood, it just had a psychotic episode.
Maybe, but I mean, she walked to the kitchen. And here's the thing, and we will bring it up again, though, is that she knew what she did because she ran upstairs and threw the knife out the window.
Yeah.
So she knew what she did was wrong.
Right.
So, in the meantime,
there was like some demon or something saying to do it, like, some kind of like fascination. What's that like chemical in your brain that's released?
Dopamine?
Yeah, like she was going to get a dopamine rush thinking about doing this, basically.
I don't know. But again, 2 weeks before, she did mention it. So it's not like it was a momentary thing. Like she'd been thinking about it. So in the meantime, April was trying to put one foot in front of the other as she mourned the loss at this point in time of 2 out of 3 of her children. And she coped by keeping her mind busy in order to keep the tears and the panic attacks at bay. She indicated that things within her home would trigger memories of all the good times that they'd once spent together, all the moments she shared with her son, and he was no longer there, at the hands of her 12-year-old daughter, as she tried to grapple with what her daughter had done to her son. And I'm sure you go over your head or over and over in your mind, did I miss something? Was there something that she said or did that I missed?
Sure, you blame yourself.
I can't imagine. So April acknowledged that life without Xander seemed to make her whole world just seem dark. She misses the jokes that they came up with together, that they would share with each other. They would sing together, play games together. According to April, during her daughter's time in treatment, she has been very well behaved, and that's how she always was, though, according to April. She was always a good kid. And she says she is standing by her daughter's side, supporting her through the grief and shock of what she did to her brother. She recognizes that they both have a great deal of healing ahead of them, and this all needs to happen before they could ever live under the same roof again, as well as the fact that her daughter will require ongoing mental and emotional help. April indicated that her 12-year-old daughter remains heartbroken and guilty. She says she has no idea why she did what she did. She doesn't understand it herself, according to April's conversations with her daughter. And she says she feels like it wasn't her who killed her brother, like it was somebody else that she can't identify with. She said that before the attack, Xander and his sister had gone Christmas shopping. They'd gone with their grandparents. They'd bought presents for each other. And afterwards, she came across letters that her daughter wrote to Xander that expressed how excited she was to hang out with him. And Xander had taken one of the letters that his sister wrote and he cut it into the shape of a heart and he posted it to his wall in his bedroom.
Oh, that sucks. It's like so sweet and shows you that it probably wasn't really her,
Right.
Multiple personality, something or other, bipolar. I don't know. I'm not a therapist, obviously.
And
but.
that's what, her as poor April was sitting with the police, she was just not understanding. She's like, I just don't get it.
Like they loved each other.
They loved each other. And, you think about the sweet little 9-year-old boy taking the time to get scissors and tape and cut it into a heart and put it on his bedroom wall because he wanted to see the sweet words that his sister said, not realizing that soon the reason why he would die would be because of that same person.
Yeah.
Like the two things just don't go together. So because of the girl's young age, many details about this case have not been released, including the possible charges that she would potentially face. A law in Oklahoma allows children 13 and older to be charged as adults, and those under this age, or I should say as children under this age, lack decision-making abilities that older children potentially possess. So it's unclear how far the girl was from her 13th birthday, but she was 12. So at the time of Xander's murder, she was 12. Had she only been a little bit older, she would have had a much different road ahead of her.
Interesting.
So she could have faced 5 years in juvenile facility until she was 18 and then potentially spent the rest of her life in prison. She may have been only a month away from her 13th birthday. I don't know when her birthday was, but the point is, because she was 12, she will likely spend a few years in this juvenile facility before she's released back home to live with her mom and her other little brother. So if there is a trial, she could attempt an insanity defense, arguing that, maybe she was under the influence of this medication. She wasn't actively taking it, but it was just recently discontinued. And like I said, April had read that the side effects can continue on for some time.
It was discontinued?
She was taken off the medication prior to Xander's murder.
Right.
So, again, she could say maybe her judgment was impaired. She wasn't the person she normally was based on this medication. But like we had said before, according to this Carter Jennings, he's an Oklahoma criminal defense attorney who handles juvenile cases. it would be unlikely that she'd be successful in this because of the fact that after she stabbed her brother, she had the wherewithal to run up the stairs and throw the knife out the bedroom window, therefore knowing that what she did was wrong. So in this act, she was covering her tracks, and this would not suggest a diminished capacity defense. So her sentence will focus on rehabilitation, and according to Jennings, these juvenile facilities are under guard and they can be very, very unpleasant. So it's not like I'm, trying to paint a picture of this like lush facility that she's at. I mean, oftentimes it does resemble prison.
Real quick, I think if I was a defense attorney, I could probably defend her. And my story would be that she had an episode, and obviously, I'd get with doctors and stuff to build my case, but I'd say she had an episode and she ended up stabbing her brother, and then she came to and kind of saw the knife in her hand, saw what she just did, and like anybody was like, what happened? Like, went to her room, her safe space, still has this knife in her hand that she just killed her brother, threw it out the window because she didn't want it in her hand. And I could picture that, and to sell that to a jury, which isn't too far from the possibilities. It's not like she was trying to hide it and like hid it under dug under something, or like hid it under a blanket or something.
Yeah, but she did throw it out the window so that it wasn't there.
But I think that's like an acceptable thing. Like, as I talk about being the commissioner of death, I think she has an opportunity to be rehabbed. Like, I don't feel like this is like her who's like actually killed him, but obviously there's some demons that she has to deal with.
Something's going on there.
Absolutely.
For sure. And I think that's the whole idea, is that, children under a certain age, they do want to do more rehabilitation rather than just stick them behind bars and throw away the keys.
Yeah, well, and also like, this was I'm not crazy.
Like a knee jerk.
Yeah, and I know she thought about it beforehand, but that was the side of her that did this. That was the personality that came out and like, oh, I just want to stab my brother, and then she probably snapped out of it, and then she's taking a meth test. And then when she was sitting there, unfortunately, she wanted to stab him, and that was bad timing. Horrible.
To
obviously.
Just be sitting watching Henry Danger and walk over to the kitchen and grab the knife and not think in the time it took her to grab the knife and walk back to where her brother was sitting on the couch like, what am I doing?
Yeah, I truly don't feel like she's an evil human being. There's an evil in her. But,
right. Something's going on there.
Hope to manage that.
Like that one doctor said, there has to be some undiagnosed condition that, we just didn't know about in this case.
And I would never let my other son be around her, obviously.
That'd be really scary.
Yeah.
So again, where she is right now, it's not exactly prison, but it is very serious. And while she's at this facility, she might potentially be restrained by cuffs. That's probably unlikely because April said her daughter is how she always was, very well behaved. They might have to eat at certain times, sleep at certain times. So basically things that are very reminiscent of prison. Reports indicate that the facility where April's daughter is receiving care from her team of counselors and psychiatrists, it does resemble a school in certain areas. It does have a gym. It has an outdoor recreation area. But at night, the children are in lockdown. They're in their rooms. There's no bars like a prison, but it has see-through doors. But either way, very reminiscent of prison.
Yeah. So what I think about is that she's probably with a bunch of other kids that are like probably not great human beings. They're probably always acting out, probably did a bunch of bad things. Maybe some murderers out there too. I don't know. But like, obviously she murdered her brother, but there's like 90% of her is a kid that is just a regular kid, a sweet kid. And then she's around these other kids. It's like, it's a really horrible situation any way you slice it.
Yeah, it's true for sure. So according to April, her daughter is attending school while she's at this facility, and she's maintaining all good grades. She said that her daughter has things that she remembers from that night. Other details of the night she doesn't recall. And she knows what she did, and because of her actions, there are consequences. And that's why she's willing to face them. So a GoFundMe page has been created for April in order to help her cover expenses so that she can relocate herself and her son to a new home, pay for all the legal fees, allow her to take a step away from work so that she can attend these counseling sessions, as well as visitations with her daughter and her care team. Since the harrowing body cam footage from this horrific night was released, and this happened in June of 2023, the case had gotten a lot more of attention. So April has since made a statement thanking everyone that has made donations, while also voicing her frustration that the videos have been made public, something that she says should not be legal. So she discusses the ignorant, hateful comments that she's received. And, we know that social media can be a very good, uplifting community. It can also have a very ugly and nasty side. I'm always taken aback when I read somebody's comments and I'm like, I can't believe people say these things to other humans.
There's a lot of scumbags out there.
Right. So she has been dealing with a lot of that. Very hateful comments. She admits that yes, her children do have different fathers, but they were good kids. And she never let that prevent her from providing for them in every way. And she argues that her children never, ever physically harmed each other before this night, despite the fact that, they had been bickering more often than usual, but it was all normal to her. And she describes her son's death as a horrible tragedy that she was completely unable to see coming. She had no idea that danger was lurking right in front of her. That night, when she went up to bed, everything seemed typical. Her son and daughter were sitting on the couch watching Henry Danger, never expecting that would be the last time she would see her son alive.
And it sounds like a lot of online people are probably blaming her for not seeing it sooner, based on what I'm
Who
hearing.
knows what they're all saying, but there's always a lot of hateful people out there.
Like you coined, hindsight is 2020.
I said that. That's my term.
Right.
No one else can use it unless they give me the credit for it.
Right.
So, it's just a very, very sad case, and that is the murder of Zander Lyda.
Yeah, that's terrible. Regarding the police camera footage being public, I think that should always be public. It's our tax dollars going towards police stuff, and sorry that your kid was part of it, but
Well, and her face was blurred out. We don't have her name.
yeah, that should always be available. Once we start not allowing police video, that's where things go downhill fast. But called the Freedom of Information Act. It's where a lot of people get information from.
Well, look at you, Mike.
FOIA Act. So yeah, it's a horrible situation. I hope this little girl can get some help and get on the meds that she desperately needs. And it sounds like she's mature. She's accepting that she did this and she's got to pay the price. And I don't know. I hope the best for the kid, but
Yeah, we could only hope that she does, like you said, get whatever help it is that she needs, whatever medication she needs, and that she can live a somewhat normal life moving forward. It's always going to be there that she did what she did.
she's got to live the rest of her life knowing that she killed her brother.
Yeah, and it's just sad because Xander sounded like such a sweet little boy, and the fact that he had no idea that he was in danger. It's just really sad.
Sucks. Well,
So
thank you for
sad
telling
all around.
Xander's story, and maybe it makes some other parents more aware of maybe things going around. So and maybe kids too. When you hear your friends talking about doing something that doesn't sound quite right, stabbing their sibling, take it seriously and maybe tell an adult. Hopefully, if you're listening to this, the worst thing that could happen is nothing. But the best thing that could happen is maybe they get stopped from actually stabbing their sibling.
Yeah, and the whole idea is that no one should suffer in silence.
Right.
That there's help available out there. It's just a matter of getting it.
Right. You listeners know that we're not afraid of I'm not afraid of letting a killer have it and just be really dig into them. But it sounds like this kid's, just got some serious mental problems, and it's really sad.
It is very sad. My heart really breaks for April and the fact that, people are just out there crucifying her. And it's that's not helping. This woman lost her son, essentially lost her daughter. It's she can't identify with who she is or what decision she made. But to just be, make such ignorant, hateful comments is not helpful.
Yeah, if you listen to the show, then spread positivity if you could. Just tell somebody they look good or whatever, or they love their nails or hair or shirt that they're wearing or something. I watch a lot of those TikToks where it's a dude just walking down the street and he's like, "Hey man, love your outfit," to another guy, and
Yeah.
it's thanks, and you see a big smile. It's you didn't make that person's day necessarily, but you made that half second there, and then they're probably going to go to their wherever they're going and be like, "Yeah, some dude just said I look good today."
Right. And then that next person is more likely to spread the positivity, and it's a domino effect.
It's like the wildflowers being spread.
Yeah, we were taking a walk today and there were pretty wildflowers in this field by our house, and they were just glorious. They're lavender, just beautiful. And I was telling our daughter, I was I used to read you a story about a lady that would walk with wildflower seeds in her pocket, and she would walk along her street in the countryside and just spread the seeds. And then as the years went by, these wildflowers just bloomed and made so many people in the town so happy that I think even people came to the town just to see these wildflowers.
And we Googled it, and it was that's a theme that's used in a lot of different stories for coming of age. And it's no particular story.
I thought it was nice.
It was
I
nice.
do make an effort to go onto Instagram and say nice things in people's comment feeds because, like I said, I'm always shocked when I read through the comments. I'm like, who says this to another human being?
Like fake lips, fake face. I'm like, well, I might be thinking those things, but don't say it.
Don't say it. Keep it to yourself. You know, just
and say something nice to your husband or wife once in a while.
do I not compliment you
Oh,
enough,
no,
Mike?
I'm
Is
just-
is that a hint?
Oh, I'm saying that as in generalities. I wasn't saying it towards you.
Because you are so good looking.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's from Seinfeld.
Right.
And then we do this thing where if I come up with something, I'm always like, it's just not just a pretty face. And Mike's new statement to me is, you're not a pretty face.
No, you're like, because, okay.
I do a gesture.
Yeah,
I
we gotta-
gesture at my face when
I make me sound like a jerk. So you're,
Mike is not abusive. He's not a jerk.
she like makes a gesture to her face and wants me to say, not just a pretty face, but I say, not a pretty face. And you're like, no, it's not just a pretty face. I'm like, oh, yeah, I always forget.
God, everyone thinks you're such a jerk. Why
I
are you
know.
such a jerk?
It's mostly true.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here with us. We appreciate the heck out of you. We will be back, like Mike said, on Wednesday with bonus episodes. So if you need more content, we're here for you. It's there.
Yeah, just throw us some cash.
And yeah, just a little cash.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, you can do how many days free on Apple subscriptions?
3 days, 3 days free. If you could binge all you want, I think the record is like 12 episodes. So try to beat that.
Well, like I always say, if you know you have a project coming up, a deep clean of your house, organization, pop those earbuds in and just listen. And I apologize for the sound of my grating voice.
It's pretty bad.
It's awful.
I got to live with it all day.
I know. So anyway, guys, until next time, bye.
Your camera's on, doing something.
Well, why?
Click on that the green thing.
This? I did that.
And what's happening?
I don't know. It's just this.
FaceTime. Open up FaceTime. The bottom green video. Right, like double the right click it basically, and then do quit.
Okay.
Is it off?